On the bustling streets of Yokohama, a decade can pass in the blink of an eye. Time marches on and people come and go. But there are some things we refuse to let change, like the uncompromising flavor of our senbei and the place we hold in our hearts for our valued customers. At Ichiban Confections, your smile is our #1 priority. Eat at Ichiban's. We are Ichiban Holdings.
Yakuza 7 is a good game that could have been great. Stepping away from action to turn-based RPG gameplay, they chose Dragon Quest as their inspiration, while also bringing over some of its flaws, with new ones that almost had me quit the game. The story is classic Yakuza, a crime drama that speaks on topics such as family, loyalty, and the pursuit of power. They touch on heavy topics such as the gray areas in life, doing wrong for the right reasons or out of desperation. How complex families can be, and even though you love your family, it doesn't mean the love is shared. And how the spoiled and mentally weak can snap and sell their soul for any sense of control. Despite these heavy topics, Yakuza 7 is more on the comedic side than normal. The main character Ichiban is more of a Goku or Naruto type, a lovable knucklehead that has a good heart and loves to fight. Due to his love of Dragon Quest, it gives the game a logical reason on why these wacky things are happening. The cast is also made up of classic TV tropes. The snarky best friend that ends up betraying you but comes back later. The pretty girl that doesn't belong but can hang out with the boys. The mysterious pretty boy type. The old drunk fart that's wise when it counts. And the tough guy that's actually pretty soft inside. Anyone that loves an action dramedy anime will be in for a roller coaster ride of themes and emotions that come together at the end in a masterful way. It's truly peak fiction. The gameplay for the most part is good. We have a classic turn-based RPG with a job system. It reminds me a lot of Dragon Quest 7, and unfortunately, just like Dragon Quest 7, it takes a long while before you can even use the job system. But once you're able to, you'll have multiple to pick from, fitting the typical classes that you'll find in any other RPG. You have your attacker, your defender, your mages, and many classes that mix between different jobs. Enemies are weak to different elemental types and weapon types, from fire damage, lightning damage to water damage, and guns, blunt objects, and knives. Now, one thing I have to criticize the game for when it comes to this system is that they don't let you scan anything. In most RPGs, you're able to scan an enemy to know what they'll be weak against. And even if you can't scan them, other RPGs such as Pokemon make sure to keep the enemy design similar between each type so you'll know what type you're fighting even though it doesn't directly tell you all the time. Yakuza 7 doesn't do that. I'm sure there's supposed to be some type of connection between how the enemies look and what they're weak against, but there's plenty of times where I'll think an enemy's weak to one thing but they're not. Like, for example, there are enemies that have a bunch of blades and knives and cuts all over them, and I thought that meant that they would not be weak to knives because, well, they have a bunch of knife cuts on them, so that told me that they must be strong against them. But no, that meant they were weak to them, which is kind of weird. It's like fighting a lightning Pokemon and then their weakness is also lightning. Combat can feel a bit spongy too. Now, that could be because there's two different leveling systems. You have your main level and then you have your job level. One thing I had to learn was each job changes your overall stats. So that means you could be level 40 and level 5 on a new job. So even if you fight an enemy that you're significantly higher than, because your job level is low, you'll be doing low damage and even can take a lot of damage. I'm not sure on the math on which thing is more important between the main level and the job level, but as I played the game, they seem to both be important, but your job level 100% is important. Don't think you can go into a fight with an enemy the same level as you, but you just put on a new job and think you're going to be able to win. They probably will one-shot you, so you want to make sure your job level is high just as much as your base level. Another thing that makes the game feel a little bit spongy is the fact that I was never able to one-shot anybody. Well, let me be clear. There have been times where I was able to use all my teammates to take out an enemy before they could attack, but it was very rare for me to be able to just one-shot an enemy, even if they were significantly lower level than me. Anyone that's played an RPG would know that that's kind of odd, because typically if you're 5 or maybe even 10 levels higher than an enemy, you're going to kill them in one hit. Not in this game. It depends. There have been rare occurrences where they happen, but not really. Also, going back to when I was talking about how enemies are weak to different elements, a lot of the times it doesn't really feel like that does much damage. As I've actually hit enemies with items and weapons that they were actually strong against, they were resistance against, and I did more damage. Like I said, I really don't understand the math behind how this game calculates damage, but it's kind of odd. Now let's talk about pacing. The majority of the game, you will be the correct level you need to be for each new dungeon. That's of course accounting for random battles too. Now I did plenty of side quests on my journey, but if you just stuck to the main quest while also doing random battles, you should be the proper level, as side quests don't really give you XP anyway. So for the majority of the game, you will be the correct level you need to be until you reach chapter 12. This is probably the worst part of the game and probably the worst thing I've ever experienced in a game in recent memory. So to give you a little understanding what's going on, in chapter 12, you're supposed to be going to the Omi Alliance building. Ichiban is very eager to get there, but before you go, the game introduces a new side activity. This is common throughout the game, as they introduce many side activities that they want you to really know about. The issue is that this side activity really isn't a side activity, as you have to do this in order to progress. Even though Ichiban says, I'll come back here later when I have the time, like any other side mission. So what is this side objective? It's an arena. Every Yakuza game I've ever played had an arena, so I wasn't surprised by them introducing this. What I was surprised about was the fact that I decided to just go ahead and go to the Omi Alliance building. Because like I said, every other chapter I was able to just progress through because you were the right level. You'll go into this building and even fight enemies your current level, which you'll probably be around level 35. Until you meet Majima, which for anyone that's a Yakuza fan, that's a big surprise to know that they're still in the game. Until you see that he's level 50 and he basically can kill you in 1 or 2 hits. When this first happened, I was confused and wondering, how in the heck am I supposed to beat him if he's this high level? And then I remember, oh, I know they didn't stop me to go grind in an arena. I want to be clear, I don't mind grinding. I like grinding, in fact. I grind in plenty of RPGs. What I don't like is when a game out of nowhere bumps an enemy's level almost 20 points higher than mine out of the clear blue sky, and now I have to stop what I was doing to go grind just to beat an enemy. This isn't a side dungeon. This isn't an optional thing. This is a part of the main quest. It made no sense for them to do this. The game is almost 80 hours long anyway. If they would have removed this requirement of having to grind out in this arena, you probably would save about a good 20 hours. But still, a 60-hour game is still long. Plus, this game has a lot of replay value. So the only thing I could think of is they did this so the game would be longer. The arena in any other circumstance would have been fun too, but not when you have to do it because it's the only way to progress through the story. And like I said, Ichiban was very eager to get into the Omi Alliance building, and if you're immersed in the plot, so would you be. So from a plot standpoint and just from a development standpoint, when it comes to the connection the player will have with the story and the investment they put in, why would anyone just stop what they're doing to grind out in a dungeon for 2 days? Yeah, it took me about 2 days to actually reach the right level in order to fight Majima without dying in 1 or 2 hits. I want to reiterate, after this point, you may have to grind a bit more, except we're talking about grinding maybe 2 or 3 levels, as future bosses are a little bit higher than normal, but again, you'll be at least close to their level, and even with smart strategy, you should be able to beat them, but just in case, you could grind maybe 3 or 4 levels and you'll be enough to get to the boss and beat them with ease. Grinding almost 20 levels is freaking ridiculous, and I have no idea why they did this. This part was so bad, I almost quit the game and didn't complete it. Now let's go ahead and get back to some more positive things about this game. Yakuza 7 has a great ecosystem. What I mean by that is everything you do loops into another mechanic of the game. Completing side quests unlock new items and new weapons you can use for combat. Plus, they might even boost stat points for Ichiban. These personality stat points does help Ichiban in combat as he's the only one that gets them, but they're used for talking to different people that normally wouldn't respond to you otherwise. You earn money through combat and completing side quests, but the best way to earn money is by the business minigame, where you have to take one small business up to the top ranking. By the end, you'll be making millions and you'll own multiple businesses and managing multiple different people. And you're able to recruit new people by having these personality points. And even some side quests allow you to recruit new people. There are summons in this game as well, and completing side quests will unlock new summons for you. Every time you fight an enemy, they drop new items, and these items can be used as craftables for your weapons and armor. There's even other side activities such as go-kart racing and picking up cans. This unlocks a special currency, which can be used at its respective store for gear that can only be found there. Then you have the underground dungeon, which before the arena can be used to grind, and there's even some secret bosses you can find. Exploring the map will lead you to find different collectibles such as silver and gold safes, which may have some type of weapon in it, so that way you don't have to buy them with cash. Going back to leveling up your weapons, there's a whole shop for that. But in order to get the best gear possible, you need to invest money into the shop, which means you need to go back into your business. See how everything seems to connect to one thing or another? Even eating out with your friends will boost their bond meter, which is basically a social link in this game. And by talking to them at the bar, you'll actually get to learn more about them while also boosting your personality stats. An easy way to boost your personality stats is to go to school, but it costs a lot of money. So again, you need to go back to your business. And of course, fighting boosts your XP and your job XP. And your bonds give your characters new classes they can unlock. I can go on and explain how everything connects into everything, but I think you get the point. I love when games have a loop like this. It's fun to me when I can turn on the game and say to myself, what do I want to do today? Do I want to work on this? Do I want to go work on the business? Do I want to go grind? Do I want to go level up my weapons? What do I want to focus on? Because everything is fun to do and everything loops back onto itself. So even when I'm not working on one thing, I'm actually helping other things in the process. Yakuza 7, despite its flaws, was a great game. And that ending, man, I was very surprised by that ending. I'm talking about my mouth was wide open. It actually has me excited for Yakuza 8. And all I can hope is that the minor issues that I found in Yakuza 7 don't appear there. And please, for the love of God, do not have a Chapter 12 situation. You can find Yakuza 7 on sale often. And it might still be on Xbox Game Pass, I'm not sure. But either way, I highly recommend Yakuza 7. It's one of the best games I played all year. And I'm even thinking about getting the Platinum Trophy. It left me completely satisfied and wanted to be just like a dragon.